In this video, we'll be showing how to add a BUC power supply to a QFlex 400 modem. This will enable a DC voltage to be placed on an inter-facility link cable to power the outdoor BUC. There are 4 types of BUC power supplies available, 2 for modems that have the default AC mains input and 2 for modems that have the 48 volt DC input. The PSUs come in 2 voltages, 24 volts and 48 volts. In this video we'll deal with the AC BUC PSUs first and then the DC ones. For this install the following tools will be needed: an anti-static station with wrist strap, some tweezers, a flat blade screwdriver, Phillips number 1, a posi number 1, some pliers and a terminal screwdriver. It would be good to have a digital voltmeter handy for voltage verification. On the modem there are 2 screws on each side and 6 on the top. One has a warranty seal. Before you break the warranty seal, you can contact us with the serial number of the unit. As standard, we offer 2 years warranty from the day the modem ships. We can check the warranty status, log it was upgraded in the field, and the warranty will not be voided. If the unit is out of warranty, then breaking the seal is of no consequence. So using your posi number 1 driver, unscrew the cover as shown here. This is the kit for the AC input, 24 volt or 48 volt BUC PSU option. The power supply with mounting screws included, a mounting plate, a cable and a label with updated current requirements. To prepare for the install we need to remove the screws from the power supply. I'll just use a Phillips number 1. Set them aside, ready for the install. So the first thing to install is the BUC PSU output cable into the motherboard. So I just turn the modem around. It's just easier to do it that way without the PSU installed. I just use pliers to match up those 2 connectors. You can just push it in there until you hear a click. You know the connector is secure. So now we just put the mounting plate for the PSU in place. As you put the lip closer to the side, so the AC input gets put closer to the side. Once it's in position, and I just turn the modem over. Move the power supply so one screw hole is visible. You can use that as leverage to align the other holes. No nut lock should be used on the power supply because it can cause problems later on if removing the power supply. It's worth rechecking that screw you used as a pivot. Make sure it's tight. Now we just turn the modem back over. So now we just attach the cables. This is the output cable to the motherboard. Just you can squeeze that cable in there. That will sit quite nicely there. Now there should be another AC connector, and you just plug that right in there. So the only outstanding thing to do now is to put the label on. I just loosen the back plate here so I can slot the label in place. So I use tweezers to align the sticker correctly. Take the backing off the label obviously so it's sticky, and then stick it in place, and then screw up those screws again. The final label placement should look like this. So that is the install complete. Just put the lid back on temporarily, make sure it's flat. You can now skip to the testing portion of the video. So I'll now show you the DC kits that can be installed. First up is the P3555 24 volt DC kit. As you can see, it consists of a cable, a label, and a 5 amp fuse. So the first thing we need to do is to remove the existing power cable to the motherboard. Just use a terminal screwdriver and unscrew those screws there. So the cable should just unclip here if you push in the catch. So now we take the dual DC cable that comes with the kit and bend those wires into place so they can fit into that connector on the motherboard, and just wiggle them in here. Now tighten with the terminal screwdriver. So you certainly don't want to over tighten these, but you don't want to under tighten them either, so some happy medium there. So you can just plug in the large power connector here. You should just hear a click as it clicks in. Route the cable in that little gap so it's tidy. I like to turn the modem round when I'm dealing with this last connector. So manipulate the cable so you can easily feed it through under the expansion board. Use pliers to align the Molex connectors together, and then just push it in with a click. You should be good to go. Just curl that cable in there so it fits in there nicely under the board. Try and keep the cable away from sharp edges. You may have a newer chassis where the PSU is installed near the front, so I've just looped the cable at the front. The rear cable has a slight bend to it, just to keep it away from the sharp edges. So now we're just going to unscrew the plate slightly, just loosen it. So I'll just bring up the modem so you can see the back. So I'll just take this label, slide it under that loosened plate, fix it in position with the tweezers so it's aligned properly, and then just screw up that plate again. Due to the extra current requirement, we will need to fit a 5 amp fuse, so just use a flat blade screwdriver, open up that fuse compartment, take out the old one, the 3.15 fuse, and fit a 5 amp one. As you can see, it will have a T5A on it, and just put that in place. That's the install complete. Just put the cover on temporarily for testing. So the last DC kit we will show how to install is the P355648 volt DC BUC kit. As you can see, it consists of a DC to DC PSU with screws included, a mounting plate, a cable and a label, and a 5 amp fuse. To prepare for the install, just unscrew the screws out of the PSU using a Phillips #1 and put them to one side. I like to start with the BUC PSU output cable that goes to the motherboard, so you just might need to manipulate the cable to make it easier to go under the auxiliary card. Use pliers to grab the Molex and insert it into the motherboard connector. You should hear a click. Okay, let's turn the modem around. So we'll just install the PSU mounting plate with the lip near the side. Now orientate the PSU this way. And we'll turn that modem over. So using the screws from previous steps, just find one hole that will go in, and then the rest should fall into place. I sometimes use my screwdriver just to separate the plate and the hole, just so the screw will go in. I don't use Loctite because that can cause issues later on. Make sure they're all tight. So we just turn the modem over and use a flat blade to open up the fuse holder. Take out the 3.15 amp fuse and replace it with the 5 amp fuse that came with the kit. So now we're just going to loosen up the back plate here so we can put the label in place. Just remove the backing. Get some tweezers to align it correctly. If there was a sticker before, just stick it over the top, slide it in there. So now we take the DC output connector and just make the cables neat. Click that in there and just curl that around the edge. There should be another DC input connector there. Sometimes it's screwed in, but often it's just tucked away there, and just put that into the power supply like so. So we just turn the modem round and put the cover back on, just loosely, just ready for testing. So for voltage verification, we'll just apply power to the modem and wait for the modem to boot up. The modem will display the buck voltage on the monitor screen, so to get there you press main, 3 for view, 3 for unit, 3 for PSU and temp, and at the top you'll see the buck voltage that it's measured by the motherboard. To measure the buck voltage, we need to enable it to come out the TX port. Assuming you already have an L-band configuration, just go to Edit, TX, 8 for buck. Select the buck type. I just select buck no comms for this test. Select 3 for PSU and turn it on. At the back of the modem, take a digital voltmeter and probe the TX port. You should see 24 volts or 48 volts, whatever you have installed. To test with an actual buck load, you can attach a buck. The red light means it's powered, but it needs a 10 meg reference, so you can just turn it on here and it should go green. So in the status menu, I'll actually show the current draw, so just press main 1, enter 6 for the buck page, and you can actually see the current being drawn there, 1.8 amps in this case. So once the PSU is verified, the only outstanding thing is to put those cover screws back in, and the install is complete. We hope this video was useful. Please contact us with any modem related questions or support needs.